Dumela, Sawubona, Sakpase, Namaste, Upshin, Dubra Otra, Assalamu alaikum, Hotep. Welcome to the Lott Carey Wise Digital Couch. My name is Doriel and is Larry, and I will be your host for tonight. Welcome to episode 19. And on behalf of the Lott Carey leadership, which includes our Executive Secretary Treasurer Reverend Emmett Dunn, our President Dr. Gina Stewart, our First Vice President Dr. Jesse Williams, our Second Vice President Dr. James Victor, and of the women in service everywhere, Lott Carey Wise, we invite you to celebrate with us the Reverend Dr. Angelita Clifton, who is our president, the Reverend Dr. Brenda McBurrow, who is our first vice president, and Sister Lynette Richardson, who is our second vice president. Welcome. Tonight is a very special guest, as it is always. We have the moderator of the Middlesex County churches in New Jersey, and that is the Reverend Dr. Derrick Dumas. Please welcome him to the Digital Couch.
Hello there.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I want to celebrate you, of course, because this is a very, very special day. First of all, let me say thank you so much for wearing black.
Thank you for coming to, yes.
You understood the assignment. Today is Thursdays in Black, everyone. And on every Thursday here at Lott Carey, and particularly Lott Carey Women in Service Everywhere, Lott Carey, we celebrate the fact that we stand together with other ecumenicals across the world to say that gender-based violence needs to be eradicated. And we do that by donning in black and those women who are wearing pearls to add on to it. We thank you so much for joining us and standing as an activist and an ally in that respect. All right. So, Reverend Dumas, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Really excellent. Excellent. Tonight, I am going to ask for my stream team, as always, to get in the front row, get in that first seat in the pew in order to help us out with this conversation tonight. We would love for you to share this on your own personal page so that we can invite more people. We are here on Facebook in the Lott Carey Wise Salt Facebook group, as well as Lott Carey TV on YouTube. And if you have the opportunity to share this with someone else, make sure that you do that. Our conversation this evening is going to be around, in the series that we are having right now, creating safe, sacred spaces. We've had a number of great conversations with leaders, with Lott Carey partners, with ministers here and abroad about how they do that within their own sphere. Well, this is the first time that we actually have a moderator who does it not just for his own church, but for churches that are in the vicinity. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this evening. So first of all, Reverend Dumas, please tell us your role as, your role as moderator. Tell us who you provide service and support to geographically, and then what actually is the association so that we can get some historical backdrop, like how old is the association?
Okay. Well, again, my name is Derrick Dumas. I am honored and privileged to serve as moderator of the Middlesex Central Baptist Association of New Jersey. As moderator, the role of the moderator is to preside over the association or assembly of churches with the objective of promoting evangelism, fellowship, Christian education, support of missionary work, both foreign and domestic. And so my job is to provide leadership and vision to the churches in the association to accomplish those ends. Our association, we just celebrated our 117th annual session. And so we've been here for quite a while, and we're moving forward. We're moving forward by faith together. So that's kind of my role. We serve Middlesex County, and so that's a portion of North Jersey, a portion of Central Jersey, and a portion of South Jersey, and we have approximately 37 to 40 churches who are members of our association.
So, for those of you who do not know, I always do like a little pre-chat with the guests on our show in order to get a little backdrop. And when I said, "So, how many churches?" and Reverend Dumas got out these papers and these spreadsheets and was like flipping papers and he's counting, and I said, "Well, wait, how many?" And so when we were counting, and he said it's about 40, I guess 35 to 40. I was like, "How do you do that?" And I asked, I said, "Do you have to visit each and every one of them?" Your answer was?
Well, we have under me. I'm considered like a CEO type. There's three vice moderators, and the vice moderators are over a specific geographic footprint. So we have area 1, area 2, and area 3, and they are an extension of the moderator's role. And so we try to each year we meet twice a year. We have a semi-annual session and an annual session, and what we try to do is to hold these meetings in each area. So, for instance, this past week we had our annual session in Trenton, and so in February we'll have our semi-annual session in another area to try to make sure that we're hitting all of the areas and hitting all of the geographic footprint of our association. And so I don't necessarily visit each individual church. I can, I can, and but we have gatherings where we get together via now with technology, via Zoom, and we do have some in-person meetings where we gather together.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let me take a moment to thank the stream team that has already started their great work. And that is and I would elect for those to take part. And that means you can take notes, you can drop comments in the comment section. If you would like for us to know your name, then you'd have to click the link and allow StreamYard to capture your name so that we don't call you Facebook user. All right. Also, if you are going to see this on the replay, please, you can also drop comments. You can sort of share this with whoever so that we can really get the great work out. So let's get into some questions for this evening. So thank you for sort of clarifying that a moderator provides like an overall view of the churches. And I know I tried to do a little bit of research to find out, well, you said you're 117, well, this is your 117th annual session.
Right.
So that means what 19? I think we calculated 1905. So in 1905, what was the purpose of having an association? Why did the churches in this area need to have an official gathering spot?
I think that the original purpose was to create fellowship amongst area churches so they could work together, fellowship together, and address some of the needs of the various communities doing it together. There's strength, and I believe that our foremothers and forefathers found that there was strength in unity. And so they, as opposed to trying to be autonomous and do everything on an individual basis, there was strength in fellowship, and they could address some of the needs of the diverse needs of their communities better if they did it together.
So instead of working individually as fingers,
Right.
they put their hand together and like I think it's Mary McLeod Bethune who said, you can do little things separately, but if you put your fingers together and move with a mighty fist, you can have a larger impact. So it sounds like that was the purpose of this.
Probably one of the foundational premises upon which associations formed.
Excellent. So if there's anyone out here meaning in social media land who is a part of association, if you're a part of the Middlesex County, then please say hi. Let us know what church you're coming from. And if not, let us know the association that your church is a part of so that we can recognize, because I don't know if every church is a part of an association or if there's active membership, not just the name on the roll. But of course, it does sound like there is support from the moderator and from the team in terms of information, education. Well, tell us a couple of the programs that you or that the association offers to the churches, and then let's see how that works together in your role as moderator to shift the tide in supporting the communities today.
Well, what we try to do, especially each session that we gather, is we have, let me just go through the organization of the
Excellent.
association. Okay, so we have the parent body, that's the membership at large. We have a women's auxiliary. We have the Congress of Christian Education. We have a men's ministry. We have an ushers and greeters department. We have a nurses department. We have a youth department. And then we have moderator appointments. So as needed, if I need to work in a certain area, I can appoint somebody to help me with that. That's kind of how it's organized. So we have our moderators, our general secretary, and then we have our auxiliary ministries. Okay. And so what we try to do is, from a Christian education perspective, is deal with some of the relevant topics that confront us at this day and age. For instance, when COVID hit, I had someone come in and just give us a presentation on vaccination hesitancy. Okay. And so, because that was a big thing when it first hit. Well, should we get vaccinated? Should we not get vaccinated? And I had Dr. Chris Purnell, who did a wonderful job, and as our semi-annual session presenter, and kind of informed us of this whole idea of vaccination hesitancy. And so, we just did and I think I told you this yesterday. We just did a workshop on mental health, where we presented a theological and a clinical perspective on mental health. And so, what we try to do is deal with some of the real issues that people are confronted with on a daily basis. That's part of our Christian education component of the association. And then we try to not only have those type of programs, but we also try to partner with other organizations in certain project work. One of the things that I'm very proud of is that we partnered with um, a couple of weeks ago, First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens, who with their water drive. Okay. And we were able to help them. They transported 3 truckloads of water to Jackson, Mississippi. Okay. And our association, it was my job to try to mobilize our association churches to get the water to First Baptist Church in Lincoln Gardens. And we did a great job in doing that. So that's something that I'm proud of. And that's an example of project-based ministry, where we're seeking to meet the needs of the people in community. And if we have to partner with organizations, both with financial resources and human resources, this is where we're looking to move towards, in my tenure, is we're trying to go from program-based ministry to project-based ministry.
That needs to be typed in the comments. So from program to
Based,
project,
right.
program to
Because,
project.
and the reason why I say that is because traditionally we have a lot of programs for our that are self-directed. Okay, we
Right,
get together, we fellowship, we eat chicken, there's nothing wrong with that. But there comes a time when you have to go beyond programs and
right.
start dealing with some of the projects that are going to have a impact on people. And the only way you can make impact sometimes is by being willing to make contact. You can't impact what you're not willing to make contact. So my job and my goal is to try to move this ministry towards a project-based ministry, where we're making a practical difference in the lives and the areas and the communities that we serve.
Some of you may see my eyes shifting to the side because I hear great phrases that need to be put up. And so here is one, right? Thank you, Dr. Angelita. Right. So no impact without contact. Dr. Angelita said can impact without contact. So if you hear these really great gems, which really should be, we're trying to shift the tide of hearing great pieces of information and then sharing them where we are. where we are in our own pews, I'll say, in our own aisles. And so it's a great way to sort of take that which you hear, or even ask a question to further the conversation, drop it in the chat, and then we can engage further. So it definitely seems like you are leading a community within the community. If people have nothing else, which, we're rather resourceful organizations that we participate in, but if you are the additional social justice and community health, and maybe even, let's say, educational advocate for the religious institutions within your community, you are, let's say, almost like the social worker, because you're listening to the needs of your constituents. And then within your house, you're providing those experts, or you're bringing those experts in with partnerships and collaborations to service the needs, so that people may not necessarily have to go outside of the organization. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep, no, absolutely. And I like the fact that you use that word social worker, because I think that is a role that, you know, we as members of the church, we have to embrace and take on. Okay. A lot of times our churches have been confined to the four walls of the church building, and we are removed, or we have become removed from the communities in which we exist. One of the questions I ask, and I ask my people this: if this church wasn't here, would it make a difference in the community that we live in? Would people miss this church if this building disappeared tomorrow? Would the impact or the effect of its absence be felt in the community in which we serve? And if you if the answer is it wouldn't make a difference, then you're not making a difference. You understand what I'm saying? You
Yes.
know, you can have all the services, the high worship, the great preaching. You can have all that. But if you're not having an impact or an influence on the surrounding community in which you live, then I don't think you're living up to the purpose of the church. Yeah.
Excellent. And so I'm going to highlight one of the things that you were just recently known for, and this is actually how I became aware of your ministry, that you partnered with MCBA, or no, Friendship, right? Friendship. No, Fountain, excuse me, Fountain
Right.
partnered with Middlesex County for the 2022 Jumping for Justice Initiative. And yes, it was wonderful. And if you had not seen it, please just go to go to Lott Carey Wise, go to Lott Carey TV, or type in Jumping #4 Justice, and just type it in and Google it. You will see the many people that came from across New Jersey in order to participate in the Jumping for Justice initiative. It was absolutely fabulous. All of us needed some ibuprofen on the next day because we had wore ourselves out. It was amazing, and we look forward to continuing to expand that conversation and those partnerships.
Can I just say, I really want to thank Dr. Angelita Clifton, because she, number one, is brilliant, and she helped immensely. We talked on the phone. I had the privilege of going to school with Dr. Clifton, and this whole idea of partnering together was born out of our conversation. And she did a great job. And this is how we partnered, because our semi-annual session, Middlesex semi-annual session, partnered with Fountain Baptist Church and Lott Carey over those 3 days. That became our semi-annual session for us. And it was an opportunity to do the Jumping for Justice, to participate in the prayer thing. It was a great event, and it was something that, like, I've never experienced our association partnering with other organizations to get something done. Angelita Clifton, and we had a roundtable discussion on Thursday, which was excellent. And I really appreciate the opportunity to partner with those two churches, that organization in Fountain Baptist Church, in getting getting it done.
It was definitely an opportunity to think and to plan outside of the box.
That's a perfect example of what we talk about. Yes.
Yes, and yes, so let's just bring this up. Hold on. It was the Double Dutch Revival, and yes, Dr. Carolyn Knight was the person who I guess participated in.
She was our Friday night preacher.
Yes, yes, she was a Friday night preacher.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent.
And
So,
Saturday morning preacher. So she,
right, I
excellent.
saw Saturday morning.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. I have to get to these questions. So although some of them you've actually probably you've touched on. So the first one is, what are some of the challenges you faced as the moderator of Middlesex County during that time, the global shutdown? What are some of the challenges? So first off, I know you said that this is the 117th session. Up until probably 2 years ago, they were in person. You said that you traveled. How did that impact once we
Okay. So
shut down?
I can say, when I started, I was installed as moderator in November of 2019. We held our first
You just got started.
semi-annual session in person. This is my first semi-annual. It was at St. John's Baptist Church in Scotch Plains, full in person. Immediately after that, COVID hit. Okay, so now as moderator, okay, we're going through all the shutdowns and the, you know, so number one, you pastors had to deal with their own personal situation. Okay, as a pastor of a church, now you got to deal with how do I maintain some level of connectivity and communication with my own church. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How do I maintain some level of communication and connectivity with my own church? That's me personally as a pastor. And so my wife became the camera woman. Okay, my wife became the camera woman. So she had to take she when we started worshiping, we had to learn Facebook, we had to learn Zoom, we had to learn all that on the fly. But as moderator now, I'm dealing with pastors of communities throughout Middlesex County who are dealing with the same issue. There were some pastors who were, of course, are technology savvy, technological savvy. They could handle it. There's some pastors who couldn't, and so you had to deal with the emotional and the psychological trauma that COVID played on the leaders of the church, and so part of my job was to kind of check on pastors, encourage pastors. That was a part of it. And then at the same time, now I have to, how do I, with you got 40 churches, how do we maintain some level of communication and connectivity? For me, it was really using technology to learning technology and using it. For instance, let me give you a couple examples. Number one, I had to set up a email database. Okay, an email database in order to be able to communicate via email. Paper communicate traditionally in associations, everything is mailed out. So
Wow.
and so we now are, we're going green. Our mode of communication is uh, electronic.
Right.
Okay,
So hold on a second. So number one, and if I have to type this in, I will. Number one, you had a mailing list. You had an email list.
I had an email list,
You
and
had a list.
yeah,
Okay.
and that's a challenge because of course everybody doesn't use email, everybody doesn't check email. The email addresses had to be updated, so that was a challenge getting that. But once we got, and we're still evolving, we're still developing that. But once we got that, we had one solid method of communications. Second thing I did was implemented call multiplier. So instead of calling every church individually, I can call all churches simultaneously. Okay. And so those are two pieces of technology I use to try to maintain some level of connectivity with the association churches. Okay, and then there were some, I heard some stories where, and I thought this was great, where certain pastors who didn't have the technology allowed those pastors to come to their church and broadcast, which I thought was great. Okay, I thought that was great. In a time of need, people coming together to help one another during this difficult time, and so it, and so we went from in-person services. My first annual address, my first annual session in 2020 was virtual. There's no association who ever had a virtual annual session. This is the first one, and so I had to, I had to program it and do all that. But that was the first virtual annual session that we had, and that was in 2020.
So hold on. First, let's actually give you like a high five in the sky. Like you need a clap. You need a holy clap for that, because of course a number of, not just you, and I don't know if you, let's say as moderator for Middlesex County, if you had to sort of go and do some dial up to the people who you went to seminary with, right, or who you known from back in the day, be like, listen, like this is real. Like how are we doing this? So and from the social media perspective, you got an email list. I don't know if you use MailChimp, if you use ConvertKit, if you use Constant Contact, whatever, but whatever that is,
Mail.
that's MailChimp. That is your best friend. That's right. Because I think it's like 1,000 subscribers. It's
Right,
free. And then over that,
right.
like, come on, like we have to talk about some like real specific tools and tips that ministry leaders or, leaders in their community had to actually employ that y'all like, I don't need that. Because we just call people or we have a phone tree. No, how about you gonna robocall folks?
Robocall.
One
Absolutely.
call does it all.
Yeah. No, that has worked and is continuing to work great for us as far as communication is concerned. You
Excellent.
know,
And
um,
that's very, I have not heard of churches, let's say, sharing their streaming software and their sanctuary to hold virtual services. That is phenomenal. There are a number of churches, so, most people know I'm from Brooklyn. I actually haven't heard of that in my community. My church, shout out to Salem Missionary Baptist Church in Flatbush, we have a very large sanctuary. And so we were able to open our doors in August. So March, April, May, June, July. We opened our doors in August, 5 months, 4.5 months later. But we had serious protocols,
right.
5 seats, 2 rows, all that. But thankfully, there were, as you said, there were some people who shared their sanctuaries and streaming software. That's amazing. Very helpful. So after you sort of got into the newness of
Mhm.
doing ministry and, the church without walls, basically church with digital software,
Right.
how did you have this is a really good question. Not on my list, but I think it's very pertinent. Have you had any of your houses of worship within your leadership that have not reopened?
No, I think everybody is open. I think everybody's opened to some degree. Now, one of the things that we had to do, there were a couple of things that we did leading up to that. What I did was, and at the time I was following the CDC guidelines as best I could, but I actually sent out a reopening guide book, if you will. I sent it out to all the churches based on CDC guidelines and recommendations, just to give churches who were at that time thinking about reopening some of the recommendations. That was early on. That was one of the things we did. The other thing we did was we partnered with Robert Wood Johnson Hospital, because I don't know if you remember when they were the everybody couldn't get vaccinated, so you had to get on a list. you know and so we have one of my officers, Reverend Gerald Smith, works there, and they had a program. Listen, have your churches provide names and we'll get them in to be vaccinated. Okay, so it was a vaccination drive that we had to try to put on and push within our association to get people vaccinated, you know. But yes, I think the majority, I'm going to say all of our churches are open right now in person, and everybody is hybrid. So it's not like it's all, and I'll be hybrid from this point forward. So it'll be, because I still have people who they're not, there's some people who may not come back. That's just the reality of it, but, technology has enabled us to expand our reach. I have people in Atlanta, I have people in Phoenix, I got people, so it has caused us. It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. It's caused us to rethink how we do ministry, you know. And so, yeah.
And thank you for acknowledging that you as the moderator, you have insight, you have foresight, you have vision that you could say, okay, look, people, really, we may not get everybody back in their seat. Strengthen your digital footprint and keep people connected. Have you seen, and this is when you said that you had to sort of check on the, let's say, the emotional fortitude of the leadership within your district. How was it trying to convince the leadership, the clergy, to say that this is not just for a minute? This should really be a part of your new platform, because I know where I sit in Brooklyn, there were the same conversations, the same concerns. Well, listen, if we don't get, let's just say, feet in the seat, I'll say it that way. If we don't get our feet in the doors, we might lose our, what we bring in. Have you seen, and have the churches that you oversee seen growth because now you have people from other places that you would not have gotten into the doors?
I was really surprised because there really wasn't much negative feedback in regards to technology. I had people tell me we did better financially, with the way things are now. We don't have everybody in the sanctuary, but the hybrid, um, using technology has expanded our reach, but has also sustained us. So churches, people who were fearful about churches going under, and I believe God is the one who sustains the church. And so it may not be in the same way that you and I may think, but ultimately, you know, churches were sustained, and the people that I talked to, who may had some initial challenges with technology, they love it now. Even some of my seniors, who, my seniors, I'm in the process of, we're leading up to our 100 church anniversary, and so what I've been doing for Bible study for these past few weeks is I've been interviewing with technology some of our senior members, just to get some words of wisdom from our matriarchs and patriarchs. So I had a 90-year-old, uh, two 90-year-olds on with me last night who were they had a little assistance, but they were on Zoom, right? And we were having a conversation on Zoom. 90 years old. They've been members of the church for 60 years, you know.
Shout
And
out, shout out to the great mothers and the great fathers of the church. They'll be like, listen, I'll go in the chat. I'll share this out. Hold on. Let me change my background. I said, wait a minute.
yeah, yeah. And so, I mean,
That was a mother.
it was encouraging to me, because sometimes you defeat yourself even before you begin. These people who maybe had some reservations, now they've embraced it. I've got senior members who've embraced technology, and it will be the way we move forward, because the church of yesterday will not be the church of tomorrow. So there's a pre-pandemic church, and there's going to be a post-pandemic church. You understand what I'm saying? And the church post-pandemic will not be the same church that was pre-pandemic.
Correct.
Right? And so we have to be able to adjust, because every challenge is an opportunity, And I think we've been challenged, and I think the church as a whole has done a good job responding to the challenges that we faced.
Excellent, excellent. Oh my goodness, I think we've talked so long. I hopefully I didn't. I'm going to just run through these other questions, but I think we've addressed some of them. Uh, okay, so this is one that we probably just addressed. What have you learned about creating safe, sacred space from the technological challenges you experience as moderator? So I think, go ahead. You have
Let
something
me say
additional.
something about that. I'm glad you raised that, because the whole idea of creating sacred space and safe space. Question I ask myself is, what makes sacred space sacred? It's number one. What makes sacred space sacred is God's presence. And so if 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 I'm going to be instrumental in leading people to create sacred space, number one, it's got to be intentional. Number two, it has to be, because sacred space is not simply limited to one geographic location. It's not a building. It could be a room. It could be a closet. But what makes it sacred is God's presence. And so intentionally, in creating sacred space, it takes a level of consecration where you dedicate a space for God's use. I set this apart. Okay, and so if I'm in my basement broadcasting worship service on a Sunday morning, it becomes sacred space, not because I'm here, but because we've invited God here. Okay, and so you consecrate, and for we had to do this on first Sundays when we were everything was virtual. We used to have people, you get your crackers, get your juice, okay, and consecrate them. They become holy right where they are because they've been consecrated for God's use. And so safe space, safe safety is both physical, emotional, and psychological. I think the church, we have to be conscious not just of physical safety, okay, but emotional, psychological safety as well. Because to create a safe space, it means I am creating a space where people can come together and be open and honest about some of the internal issues that they're dealing with. Okay, a safe space is where I feel comfortable with being vulnerable to some extent, where I don't come to church to cover or hide the pain. The church has to be a place that helps me process the pain that I'm dealing with. And that's a part of creating a safe space. Nobody should feel judged. Nobody should feel condemnation when they enter into your sacred space. It should be a safe space that enables people to experience transformation and liberation. Okay. And that doesn't just happen because you walk in the doors. Okay. That happens with people. Okay, you got to be conscious. And Dr. Angelina Clifton taught me this: trauma informed ministry.
Oh, come on, Dr. Clifton. Come on, come on, come
I
on.
mean, everybody who walks through those
I
doors is
am.
dealing with some level of trauma. And you got to be sensitive to that. And you may be dealing with the same trauma yourself as pastor, as leader, despite your position. Yeah, ministry, trauma informed ministry means, listen, you got to be sensitized. And to me, I say all that to simply say, if you're talking about creating a safe space, it goes beyond having some security guards and armor bearers. A
Woo,
safe
what?
space, a safe space is
Okay.
a space where people can enter in and be open and honest about the reality of what they're dealing with internally, not fake and phony and facadish. We know how to do that. We know how to come in with a smile on our face, but we also have a tear on our heart.
Woo!
Church that's going to be effective has to learn how to minister beyond the surface.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh man, I need a moment. I need a moment. I need a moment. So hold on. So back when we first were in this, and let's talk about seniors, uh, our elders, even some of our lay leaders within the body. And this is just from my own observation and from talking to other people who are in other ministries. So one question came up. Well, if we're on Zoom, why aren't people showing their face? Why do they have their camera off? Or why are they dialing in? Why won't they just like log into Zoom, like, physically? Maybe because they're in their own house.
Mm-hmm.
When I walk into the church, I know that I am all on the show. I'm on the stage. But you coming into my house,
Mm-hmm.
and I, as an educator, and having done a whole year and a half of remote education, remote instruction, there are some things that we don't necessarily want to see in the youngster's house.
Right. Right.
Well, part of that trauma, part of that sacred space is, of course, recognizing that the person is showing up, even if it is a black screen. They're showing up, and they need to just hear, they need to just feel, they need to just engage within their own living room or dining room table or their folding laundry. And so thank you to all of those leaders who said, okay, I know you're there. I know you can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just pray, or let's talk about this character, or how are you? And if you could just sort of raise a little Zoom hand and let me know you good. Okay. Thank you also so much for letting people know that just because they were not in the building does not necessarily mean that they weren't worshiping. And so when you talked about, let's just say, get your prayer closet, or consecrate, the elements, whether it's the Wonder Bread or the English muffin and a little grape juice, Welch's, or make it holy.
Yeah.
Make it holy. But then to say, because for some people who may not have been able to get out to a church, and I'm talking decades ago,
Mm-hmm.
we all had our own personal, lovingly, I want to say, altar. We had our private space.
Right.
Some people called it a prayer closet. Some people called it the war room or whatever. But you had that space, and to allow people that even if you are in, thank you. Wait, make it holy. That's right, Dr. Clifton, make it holy.
And
Whatever that space is,
yeah.
make it holy.
And listen, the other thing is, just because you're not in the building doesn't mean you're not a part of the body. The building doesn't define the body. We are
Somebody
the
tell me
body.
that.
And so, listen, as leaders, we have to make people who are virtual, they are just as important as those who are in that seated in the sanctuary. And you have to make, I've learned this, and I've learned it the hard way, making people feel as though they're just as significant virtually as the ones that are there in person, you know, because they are a part of the body, you know.
So Dr. Clifton says, come on, Dr. Dumas. I love it. So this just hit me. This just popped into my head. We, in this moment, we have expanded the reach of those who are shut in, but not shut out.
Right.
How many times over the past decades did you have to send out your diakonos, right, or your lay leaders to go visit those who were infirmed, those who were in the hospital, those who were, confined for whatever the reason is to their home, to give a word, to give, a hand on a shoulder, to let them see face to face, to sing that song, to read that scripture. Child, you're not just sending a bulletin anymore. You're not sending the elements. You walking in there. Why? Because they don't push the live button. Can we say amen on that? So look at the
Amen.
opportunities that came out of that.
Amen.
The whole world was shut in for months.
Yeah.
And we just, right. Okay, wait, that's right. Shut in, but not shut out.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Let me get to my next question because we run out of time. But this is just very good. This is very good. Okay. Okay. So I think we probably hit on this, but I'll repeat it anyway. So, in what ways have the challenges you've experienced changed your understanding of community as a pastor / moderator in this age of the virtual space?
Well, I think it's expanded my vision, my vision and my scope when it comes to community. And community is not something that's just locally felt, but it is, you can experience community even when you're not sitting next to somebody, and when you maintain some level of connectivity. Technology, I mean, me personally, I've had some of my relatives across the country who are in a part of our community, who would never be a part of our community if it hadn't been for virtual connectivity. And so what I'm learning, and I'm still learning this, is that your virtual community has a unique set of needs that
That's
as
right.
pastor I have to try to navigate, understand, and address. I'm learning that. I don't have all the answers there, but I'm sensitive to the fact that my community has been expanded beyond the four walls of my church. And I, as a leader, have a responsibility to seek to meet the needs of that community.
Excellent. I think I'm going to ask one more question. Let's see. So, in light of all that you've experienced over the last 3 years, what do you say to those pastors and preachers struggling to overcome challenges they face with creating communal space using technology? I could probably actually sum it up. It's here to stay. Get on board.
It's definitely here to stay, but you still you acknowledge the fact that people have different challenges, because I do. Our church we're not there yet. We have a long way to go when it comes to technology. But what I would try to do is encourage pastors. you know you may be going through, but keep going. Just don't stop, don't quit. Keep making little progress day by day. That's my thing, because it's easy to get frustrated, because I get frustrated. I know it. I get frustrated at times. But this is the new, like I said, this is post-pandemic church. This is going to be here for a minute. And so we have to adapt, adjust, and realign and dedicate resources to this whole area of technology in order to further, because the ultimate goal is to further the gospel of Christ throughout the world. And I think this whole experience that we've gone through as a church universal is molding us and shaping us to have a further and farther reach when it comes to spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ.
So, if I were to probably contact you in like a year, might you have a TikTok page? I'm just saying.
I might. I need some help. I already told you I really need some help. My daughter is a content specialist. She's a
Beautiful.
communications major. And so she's busy now, but I'm ready to hire her right now because I really need some help in that area. But what I will say, as we talked earlier, the media department will become one of the biggest departments in every church. You got to have trained professional media content people on your staff to make sure that your reach and your presence on social media is professional. We're not, the days of flyers are over with.
Right. Yeah.
Handwritten, that stuff is gone now. We have to learn how to use technology to our advantage to present ourselves in the most professional manner possible.
Right.
And yeah, so I think that's the next step and phase for a lot of churches. And a lot of churches are doing great. I'm telling you, I go to certain churches' pages and I see the level of professionalism and commitment. I'm impressed and encouraged by some of the stuff that they're doing. And so,
So, and let me, I want to take off the pressure for a moment. And this is to anyone who is out there. Now, I'm like sort of drawing back the digital curtain for a minute. Just get started. Okay. Just get started. Don't let, and this would be like, I guess, church digital imposter syndrome. Don't let the cute and the fancy and fluffy of somebody else's digital media make you like, well, I only got a cell phone. What am I gonna? No, listen, get started. So if you're just using, because I know a lot of churches were doing this the first, if they were not virtual at all 3 years ago, they were like, let me put the phone and hold it up and stand it up. Like, let me get the laptop. Shh, don't say nothing, Dr. Dumas. Let me get the laptop and use it. Go ahead. We just need to see you. We need to see the leader. We need, if we can't, if we're home, if we're bedridden, if we're in the hospital, we just need to see you, whether it's for 15 seconds on a little TikTok, no pressure. You don't got to do that right now. Or whether it be the YouTube channel, which is actually a little easier to do than TikTok, because it's full blown. Or whether you got the Instagram page, whether you got the Facebook page, whether you on LinkedIn, just get started. People just want to see your authenticity. They want to know, I just want you to reach out. I
Well, can
just
I
need
say something? And this is, I'm glad you said that, because for a lot of people, me included, the whole video and being online live and that stuff was intimidating to me because I never did it.
to.
And so now it's become necessary for just the reason you just stated. People want to see you and they want to hear from you. And so you may have to do a TikTok. You may have to do a live broadcast. You may stuff that you're uncomfortable, that I'm personally uncomfortable with, but it's necessary in order to minister and meet the needs of folks, you know, uh,
Mm,
virtually. So it's
right.
something you got to. This has forced all of us to come out of the comfort zones that we're in, and to do something and try something different. So I appreciate that encouragement.
Excellent, excellent. Listen, we are really appreciative of you coming. If there's any additional questions from the group, I'm trying to put the things up as soon as I see them. Yes, and I have to officially say hi, Mama. Yes, I see you there. Good, thank you. This is my biggest fan. Um, so here's Dr. Clifton. You've gotten really good at it. I saw your FB of Lincoln Gardens, Leslie. Okay, okay, Dr. Dumas, showing up and showing out on the digital sphere, on the internet superhighway. We appreciate it. So really, the people who have grown in this space, who have, as I say, pushed the live button and are trying to get that message out, to get that word out to their constituents, no matter come hay or high water. Um, the community just wants to be able to connect. And what was extremely traumatic for a lot of people, and still there are people who have not left their houses to go back into church. I spoke to a person yesterday and I'm like, so you haven't been to so and so? Well, when was the last time? She goes, oh, before the shutdown. I'm like, sis, that's like 3 years. You haven't been to church? She's like, oh, I just watched. I was like, wow.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I don't know how many people she lost.
Right.
I don't know how she felt when she contracted it. I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
And thanks to the leaders, the ministry leaders who are taking all of that into consideration and saying, when you're ready,
Right.
we are here. And until then, here's the link.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. That's necessary. I mean, I've done so many funerals, just like everybody else. All my colleagues have done so many funerals related to COVID and the pandemic that it's hard, and you become desensitized at some point, and it's difficult, and so uh, you know it's difficult, but we're making our way through it, you know.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to the people who are part of the stream team tonight. Shout out to you all. Thank you, Freddie Daniels and Dr. Clifton. We had some other folks who are Facebook users. So again, we can't call your name, but if you type your name in, that would be great. Uh, let's see, anybody else? Anybody else? Great, great, great. Okay, there's a couple of people, but I can't tell their name. So I want to sort of wrap this up for a moment and just to revisit, if you're out there and if you're a church leader and whatever device that you have right now, you do not need to invest like $50,000, $100,000. This is not, I don't, well, let me just say back in the day, I watched Fred Price.
Right.
I watched Charles Schuler. I watched Chuck Swindoll. I watched who Charles Stanley.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on them. For the first 3 hours of of Sunday morning, I had three different sermons
TVs on TV, right?
on TV. Right? It doesn't have to be those swinging booms through the sanctuary.
Right.
They just need to see you. How
Mm.
many of the ministers were literally in their living room the first couple of weeks, right, until they felt gully and they walked into their church and it was just them in the pulpit with their phone.
That was the hardest thing to do. Oh my gosh, that was the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. So I just want to leave everyone with a tip. When the next time that you do go into a service, if you are going to go into a building, and of course, I was bold. My pastor knows that I go across against the grain with certain things, and so I would actually be the person way before this, like 5-6 years ago. And when he spoke, I took notes on my phone and I posted them. So one moment he called me out. He's like, why are you doing that? And I said, because there are people who have moved on or are homebound, but they're on social media and they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
3 years later, he then said, Doriel, now I get it.
Yeah.
Employ some of the people, like the young people who, if they have their phone out, give them something to do. Have them, just like this, become your stream team. Have them take notes on what you're saying and then just post it out to the people who are there, who are watching.
I like that term. I'm going to use that stream team.
It's the stream team. It's
stream team. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So let me just pull up the last two. Be like Dorcas and use what you have in your hand. God will make it do what it do. Yes. Excuse me. I'm sorry. But yeah. Let's make it do what it do. Thank you, Marcella, Christy. Thanks for this wonderful discussion. I have to go. Thank you very much. Yes, please. So stay connected with us all to learn more about technology in ministry. And that's another Tim. Somebody write that down. Technology and ministry. I just said that. And yes, we are all digital trailblazers. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Dumas, for sharing with us your role as moderator, how you are leading the clergy and the churches within the Middlesex County. Sorry.
Central Baptist Association.
Middlesex Central Baptist Association. Right. I hope to be able to, hop across the bridge, maybe take the tunnel. I don't know. Come and see you all at some point. And let me say for the record, we look forward to seeing you at Lott Carey.
Absolutely. I will be there for sure next year.
Fabulous.
Yep. Yep.
Good. Thank you all again to the stream team who showed up tonight. Please make sure that you share this, even if it's if your leader is not this man sitting right here. At least share the conversation so that we can get the word out more. And of course, 2023, Jumping for Justice has begun. Get your ropes ready. Get some good sneakers.
That's right.
We'll see you all next time. So peace and blessings. This, of course, is the Lott Carey Women in Service Everywhere digital couch. My name is Doriel, who is the host. We have been blessed with moderator and pastor of First Baptist Church of Linden, New Jersey, Reverend Dr. Derrick Dumas. Peace and blessings. We will see you all. Oh, so just a little commercial. We have our book talk, our book conversations, which will be on the next subsequent 3 Thursdays on the Lott Carey Wise Salt page. So please look for that information, sign up, because I'll be there too, and you want to be a part of that conversation. To all, we will see you. Have a good night. Stay tuned for our next broadcast.
Thank you. Good night.